Gavin Newsom is now facing a recall. Why? Well, he horribly mismanages the state. I mean, he's kind of a dick. How about that? Remember when they had mask mandates and then he didn't do it? Yeah, he's not a good dude. Well, right now, let's take it more seriously. Although there has been a recall effort in the past, he narrowly survives it. Right now, people are upset because, Southern California is burning down. And there are questions about why the state and the local jurisdictions were not prepared for this. I believe it is reasonable and fair to say Gavin Newsom is at fault. Karen Bass is at fault. The LA Fire Department has some questions to answer. I got to give them some respect. I mean, the firefighters themselves, they do a great job. But the political leadership of the LAFD, they've got to answer some questions about why they're understaffed, what's going on with this DEI stuff. And let me throw it to Gavin Newsom first. Hey, what's this reporting that your state voted to build new reservoirs 10 years ago and y'all didn't do it? Right. When Newsom is questioned about the reservoirs in SoCal that are empty, he goes, those are local. So what? You're supposed to be paying attention. That's not state. That's local. Okay, so you have no idea what's going on locally? I mean, at the bare minimum, as governor, you might know. I'm not saying you would be in charge of it. Maybe you say, we're going to let the locals decide how they want to handle their water, but you would be briefed on it. So this guy is facing once again a recall. And we got this great clip from our good friend, Bill Burr, a guy who doesn't read the news, doesn't pay attention, but just talks like this. He is really funny. Bill, you are hilarious. I got to give him that. But I also got to throw some shade your way for playing this game where you are criticizing those trying to solve the problem because you don't care and don't pay attention. So I'll play those clips for you. But here's a guy who goes on late night TV and perpetuates the lies with Jimmy Kimmel. We want to recall Newsom. I don't live in California, so I'm not going to get involved. I'll tell you, I think he should be recalled or impeached, whatever. And for cause, for real reasons. Here's a story from the Post Millennial. As wildfires continue to burn in L.A., and I think, the containment for Palisades is only 18%, and the auto fire, this one breaks my heart. They thought they contained it, and then it broke containment, and now it's spreading again. So we got all these fires, man. They're going to say, organizers have vowed to file the paperwork within the next 2 weeks to remove Newsom from office, with Randy Economy, who is leading the effort, telling Newsweek that his group had already been planning the recall, but the fires shortened our time frame and changed things. Economy said in a statement, under the reign of Governor Newsom, living in California has become impossible for average people through years of poor policies, which have increased the cost of living, increased crime, increased drug use and homelessness, increased the cost of burden on small businesses and communities, while decreasing our professional standards, education standards, the disappearance of billions of taxpayer dollars to failed pet programs, and our public services. Quote, this was most recently demonstrated by the woefully unprepared and incompetent response to the fires currently ravaging the LA area. Just today, Governor Newsom was asked, what is your plan to deal with the lack of water to deal with the fires? And he responded by saying local folks are going to figure that out. Really? That's not leadership. Leadership is solving problems, not passing the buck and the blame. And Californians can no longer afford to have an empty suit occupying the governorship. It's time for Californians to take back control of our mismanaged government, and using the recall tool is our last hope. To trigger a recall, for the governor, groups must file a notice of intent and then collect the signatures of at least 12% of the votes cast in the previous election. In the last gubernatorial election, over 10 million people voted, meaning around 1.3 million signatures will be needed. It's about 9,000 signatures a day. That should be no problem. Economy led a 2021 recall against Newsom and started the organization Saving California in late 2024. We almost had Larry Elder. How amazing would that have been? Nathan Click, the spokesperson for Newsom, told Newsweek the governor is 100% focused on the fires, ongoing rescue efforts, and the recovery process, not politics. Readers still should have the context that the same group of far-right Trump acolytes have launched 6 different recall attempts against the governor since he's taken office, each of which have failed spectacularly. Even Republican Party leaders have criticized repeated attempts as a brazen campaign finance grift, and the recall organizers have been sued by their own donors for pocketing funds raised previously. So why is this going on? Well, as you know, California is burning. 40,000 acres combined. The Palisades fire, as of Tuesday, was only 17% contained. Eaton fires burned 14,000 acres. Wow. And was 35% contained. That's good. I hope they can get this one under control. But the winds are expected to kick up. Now let's throw it to our good friend Bill Burr, who appeared at Jimmy Kimmel last night. I have to do it. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll chill in the Bill Burr impersonation. Let me give you this guy. Here you go. He talks in a way that comes off as funny. But yo, Bill, I'm sorry, dude. You are like the moron preaching to the morons. Now, you've got funny jokes. That's true. And you deserve credit for that. But you are dumb.
It's very good to see you. I heard you had to evacuate your home.
Yes. Like most people, I had to. I got lucky. The winds moved, but, the fire was coming and all that stuff. So I feel lucky.
Are you guys back in?
And I think everybody did a great job.
Yeah.
Unlike the internet,
Yeah, right. I know. It's right.
Oh, my God. All of these fire experts. Why didn't you just fly a helicopter into the ocean and then just, I don't know, because there was 100-knot winds? You want to do that? You want to do that at night, you lunatic?
How are you?
This was definitely mismanaged.
That's a big word we're hearing now.
Mismanaged, like some idiot on the internet knows how to manage the worst fire in L.A. sitting there in his underwear. You know what? Looking at the footage on the internet, I have determined that this here was mismanaged.
So this is what Bill Burr is. Well, he is a court jester. And understand, my friends, the jester was not a clown to be smeared and besmirched. The jester was an advisor who, depending on what you read, he could crack jokes that nobody else could. I mean, comedians are respected. Here's what Bill Burr is doing. Now, am I some guy on the internet sitting in my underwear saying, fly a helicopter into 100-knot winds? No, the first thing we said was the reason they could not use helicopters to bring in water was because of 100-knot winds. And even fixed-wing aircraft were struggling in the Santa Ana winds. That being said, those Santa Ana winds come every year. They know that they get intense, and they already had a fire warning because of low rainfall and extremely low humidity, meaning they knew in advance the potentials were high. And did they prepare for it? No. So here's what Bill Burr's doing. To the morons who watch Jimmy Kimmel, of which I will stress, Jimmy Kimmel's his ratings in the demo is 221,000. Hey, that ain't bad. But we here at Timcast are substantially bigger. And with the combined network, well, Timcast IRL crushes that. We get like more than double. We get like 2.5 times his ratings. Good. And the morning show does we do like a million? Because it's much more segments. Well, I think it's fair to say that technically, Timcast IRL as a straight live show does 2.5 times Jimmy Kimmel. But then with all our clips, we're doing like 10 times Jimmy Kimmel. So how about that, Jimmy? But for the people who watch this show, they are now thinking, it wasn't mismanaged. It's just stupid people in their underwear. That's what Bill Burr is doing. Look, I bring you the sources. Delays and a lack of resources. How LA Fire Department was late to the Palisades fire, according to witnesses. No one came. Come on, this is the news, Bill. The news. Come on, you got to read, don't you? No, he doesn't. It took LA firefighters at least 45 minutes to respond to the Pacific Palisades blaze when it broke out last week, according to records and local homeowners. By that time, it was too late. 45-minute response time to a fire is insane. It's insane. So I don't know what the problem was. But why were the reservoirs not filled? It's a fact. The reservoirs were empty. Come on, Bill. Mismanaged. There's a moron who doesn't watch the news on primetime television who has no idea what he's talking about, making fun of people who are trying to solve the problem. That's my problem with you, Bill. But hey, this is not a personal beef with Bill Burr. He's a funny guy. He's just stupid. Bill, if you end up seeing this, I'm going to say it. When I call you stupid, it is intended to be a little bit mean. Because right now, prominent voices in media, in politics and culture, are trying to figure out how this doesn't happen again. And you, a guy who doesn't read the news, are mocking that effort. So more chaos, more damage will happen. You are a bad guy for doing that. How about, I got to say to you, Bill, when you say some moron in his underwear calling it mismanaged, he has no idea what he's talking about. You're describing yourself. Did you bother to read any of the news? He didn't. Bill Burr doesn't pay attention by his own admission and then criticize people who do. He cherry picks one stupid random person who's like, fly a helicopter. When the people who are calling it mismanaged and are complaining about this are, journalists and people like me who actually did the research and said something doesn't make sense. The reservoirs should not have been empty. 95% of rainwater running off into the ocean doesn't make sense when they voted 10 years ago to fill the reservoirs, and California experienced a record drought 10 years ago, knowing they needed to mitigate this problem. But how about this clip? Let's just play this clip for you guys. This is from Joe Rogan.
Not what a governor's supposed to be. That's not what a mayor's supposed to be.
They're trying to look out for your best interests and trying to get 400 million people to all pull in the same direction.
This is Bill Burr on Joe Rogan 4 years ago talking about COVID lockdown policy.
It's fucking. You can't get 40 comics to pull in the same direction. So
But they did.
They have like an impossible. They did and they didn't. There was people fucking right the whole fucking time. There's been fucking assholes on my street walking around no masks. Not quarantining like the people that come by the houses. You see the fucking, the same people that were going in and out of the house who are not part of their family still going in and out of the house.
You want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, Joe.
Do you, though?
Let's not start this. Okay.
Let's start it.
I don't want to start this bullshit. I'm not going to sit here
Joe,
with no
you're
medical
great.
degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up. Better than the CDC. All I do is I watch the news once every 2 weeks. I'm like, mask or no mask? Still mask? All right, mask. That's all I give a fuck about.
I watch the news once every 2 weeks. So here's a guy who, let's be real, that basically means he doesn't watch the news. Tuning in to some random clip a little bit once every 2 weeks, bro, you have no idea what's going on in the world. Here's a dude angry that people weren't wearing masks walking around outside. And Joe called him out for it. Now, he's a funny guy.
I don't care.
But even they say you shouldn't wear a mask unless you're treating a coronavirus patient. The World Health Organization.
Yeah, but they didn't say
literally
that initially. They didn't say it initially.
No, they didn't.
They did. And then it gradually, and then wait. And then everybody wore the fucking masks. This is like rollerblading. Everybody fucking rollerbladed, and then there was that one fucking homophobic joke, and then everybody acted like they never did it. And then 100 million fucking rollerblades got thrown into the fucking ocean. We all wore masks. And then all of a sudden, people are fucking sitting there. What? You don't have the body type for it, dude. Your fucking knuckles would scrape on the ground. Even with that extra 2 inches. I just love how wearing a mask became like this fucking soft thing that you were doing, being courteous. Being courteous. What is it?
I got to give Bill Burr credit. I'm not going to play stupid political games. That was very funny. He is a very funny guy. His presentation is epic. That's why he's a very famous comedian. My concern is that he doesn't know what he's talking about in a crisis and mocking those trying to solve the problem. So if you've got, and we don't even need an analogy here, we can go straight up. If you've got quite literally hordes of people being like, hey, why weren't the reservoirs filled? Why is the LAFD understaffed? Why was the budget cut? That's mismanagement. You had a weak warning about the fires. In September, there was a wildfire. You knew that there was low humidity and low rainfall and dry brush. Why didn't you solve this? Then Bill stands up on Jimmy Kimmel to hundreds of thousands of people and says, look at these morons. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Bro, that means in the future, this is what we have to deal with. I got to deal with friends and family members who are going to be saying things like, just a bunch of morons on the internet don't know what they're talking about in their underwear. And I'm like, no, that's Bill Burr. Bill Burr is the moron in his underwear who doesn't know what he's talking about. That's it. So this guy, look, there's responsibility here. I got no problem if I say something like, man, I don't know. That's why I always pull up sources to back up my opinions, because it's not about backing up my opinions. It's about my opinions being formed by the news that I read. So when someone says it's mismanaged and then I see a litany of failures, I say, wow, the reasonable conclusion is mismanagement. We don't need Jimmy Kimmel's garbage lies about how everybody's racist. Okay, Gavin Newsom is a terrible leader of California, but you know what? Fine. Well, I don't live there. Bill, you keep voting for it. And then don't be surprised when Skid Row gets worse The homeless crisis gets worse. The fires get worse. You can live how you want to live, buddy. But I'll be damned if you're going to go and misrepresent our position on what is actually going on. You're a funny guy. But you know what? A lot of people believe the jokes to be true. That comedy bit you did on Jimmy Kimmel isn't just jokes. It is humorous, but you're treating it as truth. So we're going to call it out. But I'll give it to you. Look, Bill Burr is a funny guy. Just stay away from the news if you're not going to watch the news, buddy. Once every 2 weeks, fine. But just don't enter my arena. You don't know what you're talking about. Props to Joe Rogan, though. Joe's great at this. Joe does pay attention. Joe does read the news. And Joe does make jokes about it. That's why Joe's been right so often. So I love it. But, look, Bill Burr, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's just a lazy and dumb guy in one area, politics. I think he's very talented. I'm a fan. I think he's funny. But I'm going to criticize when he says things that are wrong. Shout out to him going on Rogan, having that conversation. It was good. I'm glad it happened. I'm going to wrap it up there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all then.